guys, so today's video is going to be my best in beauty in face and complexion products, meaning I'm just going to be mostly concentrating on like foundation products like foundation, concealer, and powder. I think that those are the only ones I'm going to touch on in this video. I think I'm going to save uh, bronzers, blushes, and highlights for another video, unless I only am talking for like 20 minutes and then I could fit like maybe bronzers in the end and then I'll just do highlights and blushes. But these are my favorite complexion products of 2019. So I'm really excited to share these products with you. Some foundations and concealers I fell in love with really hard this year, and I've found some of my holy grail foundations and some of my favorite concealers. So I'm only going to touch on probably like 3 primers because when it comes to primers, honestly, I use the same one every day until it's used up. I buy one primer, I use it to death, and then I go and get another one. So I'm pretty good about certain categories in my makeup collection, like primers, powders, and what's the other thing? Eyeliners. I really don't go out and purchase. Like, I'll use one eyeliner formula for the rest of my life, and you guys know what it is. And then primers, I really like using up a primer before I go out and pick up a new one. So this was definitely my favorite one this year by far, and this is the Maybelline Master Prime by Face Studio Primer and Base Blur and Smooth primer in the in 100. So basically it's like a moisturizing primer. This one is basically almost done as well. This is the second one that I've actually used up of this. I've also used up my Wet n Wild one as well. You guys know how much I love that too. It's very similar to this. And that one is super nourishing and very hydrating and moisturizing. But this one is also amazing as well. It's very blurring. It completely blurs the skin when you put it on, and it's so good, and it makes your foundation go on so smoothly. That's why it's called Blur and Smooth, because it basically does what it says. There's no like special my back just started hurting a lot sitting in this chair right now. I don't know why. But it's amazing. I love it. So, and then I love the L'Oreal Magic Lumi primer as a luminous primer, but I also fell in love with this one as well this year, and this one is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Face Primer, and this is the dewy version. This is just as good as that one. I find that they're both amazing, very moisturizing, very hydrating. I love using dewy primers in the summertime more so than in the winter time. I just like how they look more on the skin and give your face more of a dewy glow in the summertime. I don't really feel the dewiness in the wintertime. Wintertime, I kind of keep it simple, not too much face products. I like wearing really light foundations in the wintertime. So, but I could also mix this in with my foundation if I really wanted to, or if I really did have a desired look to, or a desire to look dewy one day. I can just put this on, and this is really beautiful, so I love that too. And then the most recent one to my collection, but I love this, and I've been using it like every day since I've gotten it, is the Soap & Glory One Heck of a Blot Instant Perfecting Primer. This is such a really substantial sample size. One of my friends from work actually gave this to me, because since she did get a lot of stuff from Ulta recently, and she got like a huge sample pack, because sometimes Ulta offers like a huge sample pack certain times of the year, especially during like Black Friday. Like if you order like $80 worth of products, you get like this huge like sample pack of like so many free samples. So she was like, since she doesn't really wear foundation, she wears like an eyeshadow like all over the lid, and she'll wear like some mascara, but that's really it. But she doesn't really wear foundation. She was like, I'll give you my foundation, the primers. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll take those. So I've been loving this. This is actually meant for oily skin, but I find it's a really super hydrating, oily skin primer. Since you guys know I have dry skin, I do really like it. I actually really love how it looks with the foundation I'm about to mention that I'm wearing today that I like refell. I mean, I love this foundation anyway, but I love it so much today. You guys don't see that, like, it kind of wore off here, but that was mostly where the concealer was, but I just didn't feel like reapplying it because this foundation is so skin-like, but we'll talk about it in a second. But this is really good. It's actually a really moisturizing, oily primer. I think that's why I like it so much, because it's not mattifying. I really expected this to be very matte because, you know, it's called One Heck of a Blot, so that's like, supposed to prevent you from getting shiny and oily throughout the day, and it's like the complete opposite. It's so smoothing. It's so good. And then the last one I wanted to mention is one that Chip introduced me to. This brand is the Farsali Unicorn Essence, and I think I actually used the whole thing up. Yeah, I don't think there's anything left in here, so this will definitely be in the products I used up in 2019, but I think it's pretty much absolutely empty. So I did use up this little mini sample of it because it came in like a sample pack, and I'm definitely going to use up the other products in that pack as well, but this is the first one I used up because I was using it every single day, and it smells like candy, and it's so nourishing and moisturizing on the skin. And I forgot I wanted to order the full size of this. I might actually, what I might do is I might exchange the spray. I know, Chip, I'm sorry, I just did not fall in love with this spray. I loved the Unicorn Essence though. Then I might actually exchange this setting spray for the full size of this primer because I love this. So I think that's what I'm going to do. That's a good idea. But I really want the full size. It smells like candy. It's so nourishing. It feels so good on the skin. I love it. So that is it for primers. Now let's move on to foundations. And honestly, I found some of the best foundations I've ever tried in 2019. I mean, everybody needs to pick at least one Holy Grail foundation, but I found at least 3 more Holy Grail foundations because you guys know, and I have to mention this again because if I don't mention this, it's so, I can't not mention this foundation because this foundation is literally the best foundation ever. I mean, this is probably my holiest of Holy Grails, but it'll always be in my collection. I'll constantly repurchase it. You know, you guys know how much I love the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation, but I didn't mention it this year because I've been through it so many times and I've mentioned it so many times. Like this one, I believe I discovered last year, and or 2017, and it still was a consistent favorite of mine throughout the entire year of in 2018 and 2019. I forgot last year's 2019 already. So this I definitely consistently use throughout the whole year, and this is the Lancome Teen Idol Ultra Wear Oxynauts. We're not reading all that nonsense, and the shade is 210 Buff N. The only thing I need to say about this foundation is that I feel like I need a lighter shade in it. I feel like it's kind of gotten darker, and also this says it expired on 11/19. Maybe that's why the shade is turning, Caitlin, because it expired a month ago. I mean, it's not like you could really tell that it expired because it doesn't feel irritating or itchy on my skin whatsoever. But I feel like I might be down to the bottom of this and there might not be too much life left in here. I have to look again. But anyway, aside from it maybe not being good anymore, it's not like it smells bad either. So I think it's still good. So I think I'm going to use it all the way up. I think that might be why the shade isn't right for me anymore. It's just the best foundation. It is so beautiful on the skin. I wore it on Wednesday all day because I went to Connecticut to visit my best friend this past week, and I wore it all day, and this is always my go-to foundation when I know that I need to keep on foundation for a really long time. I know that I'm not going to be taking my makeup off for like 12 hours or more. It's still the best. I really feel like it does last up to 24 hours. It's just, and it's so comfortable on the skin and it looks so gorgeous. Just nothing I mean, there were definitely a few foundations that came close this year, and the next one I'm going to talk about is definitely my top favorite besides this one. But this is just phenomenal. It's been my favorite for a while, and when I'm looking through the reflection, it kind of does look like it's kind of empty. So I might have used it up again, but that's how you can tell how much I love it. I will constantly repurchase this foundation. I just need to get it in a lighter color, but no matter what season it is, no matter what temperature it is, I always know I can count on this foundation lasting on my skin for at least 12 hours. And it always looks amazing and never looks bad. It always looks amazing. It is so good. I love it so much. I cannot recommend it enough. It's the best full coverage foundation in my collection. It's not even like, it's never heavy on the skin. It just has such an amazing formula. It feels so, I can't even describe it. Like, you just have to try it. It's a very hard foundation to describe. It's just so good. And it's so comfortable, and it just blends so beautifully onto your skin. And I love it. I just love it. It doesn't really have like a satin matte. I would say like a matte finish. It's kind of flat, but at the same time, it's so gorgeous and skin-like. It's so good. I love it. So the other foundation that kind of gave that foundation a run for its money this year, and you guys know how much I fell in love with this foundation in this year. I did not think I was going to fall so hard in love with this foundation. I was like, it's not going to be that good. But then Anastasia went and slayed the foundation game, and I was just like, excuse me. So this is, of course, the Anastasia Caitlin, you say this name a million times. I'm so tired. The Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous Foundation. Since I have dry skin, I fell hard. So hard for this foundation. I think this was my most used foundation in the second half of this year because I got it in the summer of 2019. So I've only had it since the VIB sale, or the bonus summer sale that they had, which was basically another VIB sale. They had a summer bonus sale. I got it back in August, and I used it, I don't even know how many times in 2019 since then. I fell so hard in love with this. I even love the finish of this more than the Lancome when I put it on, because it's so luminous and so beautiful on the skin. It just looks so beautiful. I can't describe how beautiful it looks. Like, it's so luminous, but it adds such a gorgeous skin-like coverage to your face. And every time I put it on, I'm just obsessed with how my skin looks when I put this on. It's literally amazing. This is a dry girl's dream, is this foundation right here. I know a lot of people, when this first came out, were saying that the Fenty Beauty foundation was better, and now I'm seeing that people are thinking the opposite, that they were saying that, I don't remember who said it, but most people that said that they had tried out the Fenty Beauty with this, like had tried out both, they ended up liking this one more. And I'm like, I freaking love it. I actually just purchased the Fenty Beauty one last week, and I can't include it in this video because I'm not really fully sure of my thoughts of it, but I do like it. But it is kind of similar to this when you apply it. It kind of has a similar finish, but this is just so freaking stunning on the skin. I don't even know how much I've used of it, but it's just, I did not think I was going to love it so much. But like, for me, like my skin does the best with luminous foundations. Like, I'm not really a matte skin, full coverage kind of girl. Like, all of my foundations just have like a luminosity to them. They're not full coverage. I'm just not that type of person, probably because I have dry skin. But it's pretty far down in the bottle, and I don't want to drip it everywhere, but it's just amazing. I cannot rave about this enough. I wanted to give this its moment today in this video. It's just phenomenal. I love it. If you have dry skin, and if you try one foundation in this video, it's this one. Like, literally, this one is, like, tied with this as being my holy grail foundation. These two foundations right here, holy grail foundations for me. Like, they are just amazing. I could not, once I use up this foundation, I'm purchasing another one. And I'm purchasing this one. These two cannot leave my collection ever again. This is going to be a holy grail staple of mine. If I run out of it, I'm purchasing it again. That's it. Like, these are the two foundations. Once I run out of them, I can never be without these again. So that's how much I love that. And then the third one, which is again still a high-end one. This is a pretty high-end one. This is actually the most expensive one I'm going to talk about. I do have 4 drugstore favorites and 4 high-end favorites in this video, so that's pretty funny. Actually, wait, I have 3 drugstore and 5 high-end. So this one, again, I fell in love with this foundation. I might even like this foundation more than my Giorgio Armani foundation, because I just find the finish of this foundation to be so natural and so skin-like and so beautiful and so dewy. And this is the Kogendo Aqua Foundation. Oh my god. And this one is in the shade 012. I tried this foundation because of Stephanie Nicole, and I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to... Oh, by the way, in the Anastasia foundation, I'm the shade 110C. This is like my perfect foundation. This is such a beautiful shade match for me, and so is this one. This is amazing. Every time I wear this foundation, I'm wearing it today, it is so easy to put on. It's weightless. It's so hydrating on the skin. Like, when a foundation claims to be hydrating, I really don't feel the hydration. Sometimes, like, literally feel like the water-like hydration sinking into my skin. This is it, because this is a water-based foundation. You guys know how much I love the Tarte one, but this one, I feel like I need to repurchase that because I have the Aqua Sealer from Tarte, which I love as well. But this is just... it's so worth the money to me. I mean, I would probably pay like $50 for this. Like $70 is a bit high. But I felt like that this was going to be a good foundation for me because it's a Japanese skincare brand. And since they have so many girls that are fair-skinned, I felt like I was going to fall in love with it. Because I feel like Japanese brands are very geared towards skincare and not being so makeup-like. And I think that's why I love it so much. I love my Giorgio Armani so much, but again, I feel like there's just updated formulas like the Anastasia and this one that I've kind of fell in love with these even more. I still love them and they'll still be in my collection always, but this and the Anastasia have just blown my mind. They are definitely my top 2 favorite foundations this year. Like, words cannot describe how much I freaking love this. But this is amazing as well. And this is definitely my go-to favorite light coverage option, like, for work. Like, if I need my skin to feel nourished, if it's a little bit dry, if I haven't really, don't really feel like putting on too much foundation, it's always this one. And my skin always feels amazing and never feels dry. It just feels so hydrated. Like, my skin is having a drink of water. I just love it. It's just so beautiful. I love it. I keep on rambling about foundation. Okay. And then the last high-end foundation I'm going to talk about is the Dior Backstage Face and Body Foundation. And this one is in the shade OW. This is amazing as well. I haven't worn it in a little while, but I definitely had an obsession with this for a while. I just end up falling in love with Dior foundations. Dior is definitely the most consistent high-end brand for me when it comes to foundation. I've actually tried a lot of their foundations. I tried the Air Flash one, and I went through 2 bottles of that. I also fell in love with the Dior Skin Star Forever foundation, and then they discontinued that one, and I was devastated because that was literally one of my all-time favorite foundations besides the Lancome, and then the Lancome replaced it for me. But that was basically my Lancome foundation before I discovered that one, and thank God that one replaced it. But that was a beautiful foundation as well. But anyway, this one is even more like dewy and skin-like, but it has really, really good coverage. And it's just, again, beautiful on the skin. It kind of has like a satin matte finish. I would say for this one, it doesn't really last as long as the other three. It kind of starts breaking up after a few hours. So I don't usually wear this as like an all-day foundation. But like for a short shift for work, like 5 or 6 hours, it looks amazing. And it's just beautiful on the skin. So I definitely fell in love with this one as well. And I definitely have like a video using it so you guys can see me use that. But it's so beautiful. It has such a nice, beautiful, buildable coverage. So love this too. This is a great foundation. So, and then the last one for high-end and the only stick foundation I'm going to be mentioning in this video, because honestly, I fell hard in love with this foundation. This is the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue Hydrating Foundation Stick in the shade Opal 1. Again, this one hydrates your skin. It's like a water-based stick foundation. Look how much I've used of this foundation this year. Like for a foundation that I got this year and that's all I have left, I did pretty good. And I absolutely love this for light coverage days. It's so easy to apply. It's definitely like one of my go-tos when I'm in a rush and I'm only working like a 3 or 4 hour shift. Boom, 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 blend, 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 done. Always looks so, so beautiful. This is like the stick version of the Kogendo. But the Kogendo is so goddamn beautiful. Like the coverage is just amazing. But this one is really, really good. Really, really good foundation. I love it. I fell in love with this a lot more than the Makeup Forever, a lot more than the Milk, a lot more than the Wet n Wild. This was definitely my top favorite stick foundation this year, probably because it's a hydrating stick foundation as opposed to like a regular run-of-the-mill stick foundation formula. So I love this too. Okay, then for drugstore, we can just mention my favorite first that I discovered back in 2018. It's still consistently been one of my favorites throughout the year. It's still my go-to. Again, this foundation always looks good. I always know like these 6 foundations that I'm mentioning always look amazing on my skin. And this one is the Physicians Formula, the Healthy Foundation in the color LC1. I always know I can count on this foundation. It is just my go-to. Like this one and the Bare Minerals have been my absolute go-tos when I don't work, when I'm just going over my boyfriend's house and I want my complexion to be even. I'll grab more of a lightweight foundation rather than just wearing a concealer all over my face, because sometimes the concealer, like, you know, I don't love just a concealer sometimes because it's like uneven coverage, or maybe I'll just throw it underneath my eyes, but this is just so good, and it's like the never-ending foundation. I am still trying to use this up, and I've had this one longer in my collection than any of these other ones. It's probably, I'm hoping this one's not expired. Expired November of 2019. Okay, Caitlin, so you might have to get rid of this one and the Lancome one because they're both expired. But they don't smell bad. They smell just fine, so we're going to use them up. So, again, amazing, beautiful, love it. Looks so good on the skin. I just love when I wear this. It's just always so beautiful, and it blends so easily and always looks good. I love this foundation. Definitely a little bit more pricier for the drugstore, but it's so good. And then of course I have to mention this one. I felt CoverGirl makes great foundations too, and this one is so, so good. This is the CoverGirl Vitalist Healthy Elixir Foundation with vitamins Broad Spectrum SPF 20. Oh my god, this is such a good foundation as well. This kind of reminds me of the Physicians Formula, but it has more coverage. And the coverage is so stunning on the skin, and it just looks so good. And it just stays perfect for hours. And it covers so beautifully. And your skin does really look so healthy when you put this on. It's a good freaking foundation. I love it. I really can't say anything else. Like, there was definitely phases where I was obsessed with this for a little while. And then the same thing with the other foundations that I mentioned. They were definitely the most used foundations that I used this year were the 5 that I mentioned. And this one I was wearing to work consistently for a little while. And it's just so beautiful. I love it. It's so easy to use. It has a beautiful coverage. I love it so much. This was definitely my favorite drugstore foundation find this year. It was definitely my top favorite drugstore foundation this year. I didn't expect to love it so much, but it's so, 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 so good. I love it. So good. Yes. I definitely used up quite a few drugstore foundations. Well, I used up the Maybelline Fit Me. I also decluttered a few, like the Milani, the Maybelline Better Skin. And there was one other one. I might declutter a couple more, but this one I'm definitely keeping because I love it. And then the last one, I love this, but I don't think I love it as much as everyone else loves it. It's a really good foundation, but for me, I love it. It looks beautiful on the skin for the first few hours, but again, I feel like it doesn't last as long as my Lancome or as long as the Anastasia Beverly Hills. Like, I wore this one all day yesterday. I didn't expect to wear this all day yesterday, but I ended up staying in Connecticut last night as well. It looks stunning on the skin. It didn't really get too shiny. Beautiful. Amazing. So this one is the last drugstore foundation I'm going to talk about, and this is the L'Oreal Paris Infallible up to 24-hour fresh wear foundation, and this one is in the shade, I'm getting so out of breath already, I'm so tired, 405 Porcelain. This foundation is really beautiful on the skin. It covers really nicely. It's like a medium coverage, and I do find that my skin looks beautiful when I use it. The only thing I would say is that I feel like it doesn't consistently stay on my skin for more than like 7 or 8 hours. I don't think it really lives up to the claims as much as my Lancome one does, because they both claim to be up to 24 hours. And I find that, I mean, this is still beautiful. I still really love this. But I find that the Lancome one just lasts better on my skin. But this is still a great foundation. If you don't want to spend money on the Lancome one, I do find that this is very similar. I would definitely get this. And if you're not too worried about it lasting all day, it is a great foundation. It's definitely my favorite full coverage foundation from the drugstore this year. It's really good. I'm definitely happy that I got this, and it's really, really, really good. So good. Speaking of L'Oreal and the Infallible collection, we're going to jump right into concealer. So we're finally done with foundation. But again, I really found some amazing foundations this year, and I highly recommend any of those foundations to you guys. But yeah, they're amazing, especially the high-end ones. But I would say out of the 3 drugstore ones I would recommend, this is definitely the one I would recommend the most. This foundation is stunning. So good for dry skin. Amazing. So now speaking of concealers, I think this was definitely the one I fell in love with from the drugstore the most, and I think first this year. I got this back with the L'Oreal Infallible foundation, and I'm talking about the L'Oreal Paris Infallible Full Wear More Than Concealer, and this one is in the shade 320 Porcelain. I love this concealer. I actually fell in love with this more than the foundation, which is weird because usually when like collections come out with like coinciding concealers, I always love the foundation more than concealer. With this, I love it. It's just so easy to apply. It's so beautiful underneath the eyes. It has such a beautiful coverage. Definitely one of my favorite concealers this year. And it just blends out so beautifully. It's hydrating, which I really, really like. And I just love it. It's so good. You have to try this. I find a lot of mixed reviews out of it, but that I've read, but for me, I really do love this. I find that it's really nice underneath the eyes. I have very like creasy under eyes, but this one is really good and it blends out beautifully. I just freaking love it. I definitely need to use it again very soon because I haven't used it in a hot minute because there was other concealers I was testing out. I was testing out the Dose of Colors one, which honestly I don't think I'm too crazy about. I'm probably going to return it. But these are definitely the ones that I fell in love with this year. So that's the first one. And the second one, which I'm wearing today, is the Milani Conceal and Perfect Longwear Concealer. And this one is in the shade 110 Nude Ivory. Again, this concealer is so easy to work with and it's so smooth. And it's, again, very hydrating. But they both have such beautiful coverage. I find that the Milani has less coverage than the L'Oreal, but it's so flawless and blendable. This is actually the one I'm wearing today, and it's just so smooth and easy to apply. That's why I like love it so much. I don't even know if this really like it conceals really nicely underneath my eyes, and honestly, like I don't get any of like those wrinkles or creases underneath my eyes there, so it is a really good concealer. Yeah, I really do like it. So this is definitely a really nice one, and I highly recommend that one as well if I could speak. And then speaking of more affordable concealers that you guys know I love, I wanted to mention, of course, this is the only one that I'm mentioning from last year that is still a consistent favorite of mine, and this is still one of my all-time favorites, is my ColourPop No Filter Concealer. I used up one tube already, and I'm working on using up this one as well. This one's in the shade Fair 2. I think I just used up Fair 8, and that was my go-to shade for a while, but I'm about to use this one up as well. It's just such an amazing concealer. It is full coverage, but also doesn't really crease underneath my eyes at all, and it's definitely one of my most long-lasting concealers. I know if I'm going to be out all day, this is always my go-to concealer over the Jouer, over the e.l.f. Oh, it's just because I find that this is a little bit more hydrating than those. Yes, this is full coverage, but the e.l.f. and the like the e.l.f. Flawless Finish and the Jouer are very matte full coverage concealers, and this one's more of a hydrating matte. That's why I love it so much. It's been a consistent favorite of mine since it came out. It's just such a great concealer, so that's why I had to mention that. But also, this one came out of the woodwork too, and I fell in love with this ColourPop concealer too. They make some good-ass concealers, and this one is the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Creamy Concealer, and this one is in the shade Fair 07C. Again, a great concealer. It's really good. This one I might even think it has more coverage than the No Filter. I find that it's super similar to the No Filter. I do find it's a little bit more hydrating, but I was thinking since this was a more hydrating concealer that it wasn't going to have as much coverage, but this is full coverage as well, and it's really, really beautiful coverage underneath the eyes. One of the best concealers I tried this year as well. Just such gorgeous coverage, and it blends out beautifully. I love it. I really can't say anything else about it. It's a really good concealer. And then as for high-end concealers, again, I really didn't fall too hard in love with any high-end concealers besides these two. And the first one I wanted to mention, which is really funny that I fell in love with this one because I did not love the foundation, but the concealer I love. And this is the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Instant Retouch Concealer in the shade 150. It's just, again, such a beautiful full coverage concealer, but it's so hydrating and, again, so smooth to blend out. It's so stunning to blur and blend out on the face, and then under the eyes, it's just beautiful. I love this. This was definitely the first like liquid product that I fell in love with from Fenty, because after I had tried the foundation, I was really hesitant to try this, but I decided to try it and I was like, I love it. It's really, really, really stunning. So I definitely fell in love with that. And then the other one, which I've been using a ton lately for the past week or two, I've been using this consistently a lot, and this is the Urban Decay Stay Naked Correcting Concealer in the shade 10NN. Again, Urban Decay, I think 3 years running, I've had a Urban Decay concealer in my Best in Beauty. They just know how to make concealers. They are the best concealer brand in my opinion, because I end up falling in love with every concealer they make besides Maybelline from the drugstore. But this one is probably their best concealer. It is so good, like amazing. It really does remind me of the old Naked Skin, but this one has such a hydrating, beautiful coverage, and it just looks so good underneath the under eyes. It just looks so smooth and beautiful and full coverage. And the same thing on the face, it blends out so beautifully. And this has been my go-to for like when I need to wear foundation and concealer, like for a long day. This is been my go-to lately, along with the Pretty Fresh, and usually the No Filter and the Fenty Beauty are usually my go-tos. And this one is just as good. It's amazing. I love it. It's such an amazing concealer. And then the last one that I'm going to mention that doesn't really have as much coverage as these other ones, but again, it's just my favorite concealer. And this one is the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Aqua Sealer. This is my repurchased one. And as far as it comes to either having a medium coverage foundation on, either not having any foundation, just concealer, this is always my go-to. It's just so hydrating and just so, it's like, again, like a drink of water for my under eyes. I absolutely love it, and I will probably still be consistently repurchasing this concealer. I mean, I just used up 4 concealers in my collection, and I feel like I might return the Dose of Colors one. So I really just want to concentrate on the concealers in my collection right now. I don't think I'm going to add any more concealers. Ever since this one, the Pretty Fresh one, if I don't drop it, I definitely like this one a lot more than the Dose of Colors one, so I'm going to consistently keep on using this one and probably return that one. But this one, so good. Love it. You guys know how much I love this concealer. So, and I'm in the shade Fair in this one. In the Fenty Beauty, I'm in the shade 150. And yeah, that's it for concealers. And now let's just move on to powders, and then we can finally stop rambling. So, there's honestly, it's probably the same 4 powders, or probably at least 2 of these were in my Best in Beauty last year, but I have 2 affordable options and then 2 high-end. So let's talk about the high-end first. So you guys know my favorite pressed powder is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Skin Perfecting Micro Powder in the shade 01 Fair. This one came into my life at the end of 2018. I purchased it around November or December of 2019, and I fell in love with this. Look how much I've used of it. I really am trying to use it up, so it's just been my everyday powder for the past like 2 months. I haven't really used any other powders. I'll use the Maybelline Fit Me one on occasion, and I'll use my Wet n Wild one a crap ton, but this is my go-to for full coverage foundation. I just love it. But it's my go-to for any foundation. It's just the best powder. It's just so flawless and weightless, and it just looks good with any foundation. Like, it doesn't add like any like heavy powder feeling or any like heavy coverage to a foundation. It just flawlessly sets your face and doesn't make it matte, but just makes it look so skin-like and beautiful. I like have such a beautiful finish to your foundation, and that's why it's my favorite. And again, I've just been trying to use it up. I think after I use this up though, I might purchase the Flower Beauty powder, because Andrea Mattiliano said it was a dupe for this one, and she said it basically took over her from using this one, and she doesn't really use this one as often as she does the other one, and I'd rather not pay $40 again for a setting powder, but I definitely need to use this up first, and I'm only going to use this up first until I'm not going to repurchase a new setting powder until I use up this one. So, but again, I love it so much. It's definitely my favorite product I've ever tried from Charlotte Tilbury, hands down. It's amazing. And then my drugstore option would be the Wet n Wild pressed powder, the Wet n Wild Photo Focus pressed powder in the shade Warm Light. This one, again, I really feel like doesn't do too much of anything, but it's such a weightless powder for me. I kind of just don't even have to think about it. I know it's not going to feel powdery whatsoever, and I love using this on lighter makeup days, like when I just wear my Physicians Formula foundation. This is always the powder I wear, or my Bare Minerals. This is just the best, like, weightless powder. It's so good. All right, 2 more products and we're done, Caitlin, because I really need to stop talking. So my favorite powder this year that I think you know, that I discovered back in April or March of 2019, it's just been my go-to favorite powder this entire year. And this is my loose powder favorites. So this is the Thrive Cosmetics Translucent Matte Soft Focus Setting Powder. Look how much I've used of this. It's getting down to the nitty-gritty. I've used this a ton. Look at that. I'm proud of myself. I think I might be able to use this guy up because I feel like since it's gotten down, like further down on this, I have to like kind of pat it out, but I love this powder. It just makes your under eyes look so airbrushed and so beautiful. And then the same thing with your face. If I use it as a setting powder for my face, it's never too heavy. It makes your foundation look flawless. You don't need too much of it at all. You just brush it over a little bit with a powder brush, or I even pat it in with a damp beauty sponge, and it always looks amazing and adds such a foolproof setting of my foundations if I need to like go to the city and wear my foundation all day. But lately, all I do with this is I set my T-zone with it, and then I'll just use my Charlotte Tilbury all over my face because I'm not really like too big into like setting my entire face like for it to be bulletproof anymore, unless it's like summer and it's like a really hot day. But like the winter time, I don't really worry about it too much. As long as I use a primer, a setting powder, and I use this underneath my eyes, and then I use a setting spray, like I'm okay. Like I'm not too crazy about like making it bulletproof. But this is amazing. It makes your skin look so airbrushed and beautiful. I love it. And then I'm definitely probably going to repurchase this when I run out of it. It's just that Thrive is a little bit expensive, but it is worth it. And once I use this up, obviously, I'm going to need a new loose setting powder because I was trying to use my Laura Mercier again for a little while, but it kind of smells old. So I'm probably going to have to get rid of that. The NARS one, I'm not really sure, but I don't really like the NARS one as much as this one. So, and then the last one I have to mention, of course, and my affordable option is the ColourPop No Filter Setting Powder in the shade Translucent. I love this setting powder, but I like this a lot more for underneath the eyes. It's a beautiful under eye setting powder. I don't really love it as much as a face powder, as much as the Thrive Cosmetics one or the Charlotte Tilbury or the Wet n Wild. This one I love for under the eyes, especially when I use it with like lighter coverage concealers. I don't love this one with like the Maybelline Fit Me concealer. I don't love it with that one. But any other concealer, like a light one like the Wet n Wild or the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind, or the Tarte Aqua Sealer, it's amazing. I love this underneath the eyes. Again, you don't really need too much of it, and it looks so flawless underneath the eyes. And I only use this powder as like a setting powder in the T-zone when I wear lighter coverage makeup, and it's so good. So this is a really, really good setting powder, you guys. And that is it. That's it, you guys. It's over. So if you guys have any recommendations, oh yeah, and then for setting spray, my #1 favorite was the Flower Beauty Seal the Deal Hydrating Setting Spray. And then for prep spray, of course, you guys know I love the NYX First Base Primer. This is like my third one, and this is my favorite prep spray. But also, I've been using the MAC Prep and Prime lately. And when I first got this, I don't think I ever really used it as a prep spray. Maybe I did as like a first base or whatever. You guys know that I used to use the Smashbox Primer Water as that. When I used to spend the money on that and buy it all the time. But then I discovered this and I was like, why am I going to buy that anymore? But that's still an amazing product. But this one's just as good. It's so hydrating. I love it. I've been using this so consistently. This is a little sample of it. I love it though. I use this every day now for primer spray. And then for this one, I just use this as my setting spray. And you guys, this lasts so freaking long. Like, when I actually look at the thing, like, I've had this since, like, probably March or April, and it's lasted way longer than, like, any of my other setting sprays. There's so much product that you get in here, and it's so good. It's so hydrating, makes your skin look beautiful after you use it. I just think that the Milani one makes your foundation last longer, but again, since it's winter time, I don't need to really worry about that. So please let me know your recommendations. Please let me know your thoughts on these products, and let me know if you have tried any of them and if any of these are your favorites. I really would love to know. But yeah, that's it, you guys. So please like and subscribe, follow me on all my social media, and stay tuned for my next Best in Beauty video. But those were all my favorite foundations, concealers, and face powders for 2019. So yeah, that's it, guys. Love you. Bye.